Hey, welcome to another episode. You don't want to miss this one if you're interested in communications. When disasters happen, often rumors just fly like crazy. But you know what? Most communities don't think about integrating their Facebook admin pages into their overall strategy. Stay tuned as you hear how some of these Facebook admin groups are such an important part of community communication that you need to consider them as part of your strategy. So stay tuned. Hi, welcome to another MYD Global episode. And today our guest is in Boston, and her name's Michelle Efendi. How are you doing, Michelle?
I'm great. Thank you so much, Leanne.
So thanks a lot for making the time to talk to us today about Facebook admins and the role they can play in disaster relief, response, recovery, because I think it's a very interesting topic, given communication is always the number one issue when a disaster happens. And that's, if something's going to break down, a lot of times it's there. So thanks for being on an episode today. And before we get started, can you just tell us a little bit about Michelle, who Michelle is, your background?
Definitely. Well, I really appreciate you taking time to get to know me and this subject. My name is Michelle Efendi, and as you said, I'm based in the Boston area. However, I have a lot of experience living and working abroad as well, and that's really where my experience started. I was living in Jakarta, Indonesia for a long while doing my master's online. And that's how I started with this whole online diplomacy. I was doing my master's degree online. So I was corresponding with Oregon State University and the University of North Carolina while living in Jakarta. And I was able to, again, correspond with them while living where there was internet in Jakarta. And then it just transformed into me moving back to Boston and continuing to work and build community using Facebook. And I recognize that we have the power to change offline behavior through online relationships. I've never met you before, but we're able to get to know one another through these platforms and build resiliency without needing to fly across the planet, without needing to continue to use carbon emissions. I think that it really provides us a great opportunity to get to know each other in this way.
So Michelle, one of the things when I'm talking to communities, I ask them, I say, where do you get your information? When things happen, where do you go? And it's always interesting to see where people go. And a lot of times I'm hearing the Facebook page, and it's not the
Right.
official city page or community
Right.
page. It's like a rant and rave page or somewhere
Right.
that they get their information. Can you tell me a little bit about the local pages? Like what tends to be on there? Who tends to post information?
Right. Everybody tends to be on there, and I think that that's really the important part is that that in previous years we had a Knights of Columbus, or we had a church that really bonded our offline lives. And now we have these community groups, these Facebook pages that are bonding us in our offline lives, but they're actually online communication tools that are bonding us, and they have just as much role in our offline lives, except it happens to be online. Just like I could pick up the telephone to call you, just like we're using a telephone to communicate in a video conference, I'm using my own lungs, I'm using my own heart, I'm using my own voice in my offline life to communicate with you. It just happens to be in this digital format. So although senses of authority may want to downplay the role that these Facebook pages play in our in our lives, they are actually critical in the community, in our communities. Everyone is there, including the chief of police, including the mayor, including the staff, including the butcher, including the baker, including the candlestick maker. They're all there. These small business owners, because it's also very inclusive. It allows people that are homebound. It allows people that are working the night shift. It allows people that are not typically able to participate in our layers of government to join in. And we use page synonymous with groups, but it's actually the product on Facebook is actually typically, though it's a group, it's a Facebook group, it's a chat, and that's really the word is a chat room. That's the product that we're using on Facebook. It's a Facebook group.
So these groups, because one of the things too is it's often very challenging for even the county, the official government representatives to get their information out quickly, because sometimes these disasters, I mean, timing is critical. You need to get to as many people as possible. So I look at something like this and think, if you have this asset in your community, then you need to figure out in advance, how can we link with this valuable communication resource and get our information out quickly, and information that's legitimate, that's not a rumor, that's not someone's opinion. It's something that's critical and it's legitimate. And so I look at this and say, here's a potential avenue where people are already going to get their information.
Right.
They know that it's going to be timely. So can you just comment a bit on the logistics piece? So if I say am a communications person for a city or a county, a small region, and I need to hook up with you in advance to figure out that channel, is there one person that I talk to, or how does that happen?
I think that it's just like that famous quote that a lot of emergency managers use. It's don't pass out a business card at the disaster. It's build these relationships far in advance. It's reach out to these people. It would typically be the admin, and that's something that one can find by for example, the town that you live in, you would go to the Facebook search engine. And if I live in the town called Smallville, then I would go to the Facebook search engine and I would type in the name Smallville, and it would pull up a list of groups. For example, it may say Smallville yard sale, or it may say Smallville happenings. That is if there are already groups that are created. And it's likely that there are. There are usually groups that are within your area or region, because this phenomenon has been going on for the past 10 years. There are typically groups that exist. And if it's not in your specific area, it could be the town next to you or the town that is within your region. And if you don't have one that's specific to your area, then it's worthwhile to reach out to the one that's next to you. Right? Because it's worthwhile to have people that are in your parameter, right? And so, for example, I would click on that group and go over to the membership, and you can see who created the group or who's listed as the admin, and friend them, and you reach out to them and start a collaboration. And if you're an authority for that region, as in if you are the police, or if you're the mayor, or if you're the clerk, then it's very likely that you have the ability to know you very likely know who they are, So, I mean, this is definitely worthwhile. These people are assets to you without a doubt, because they definitely know the happenings for the town. They are as if they are a watchtower for the location.
And I think part of the challenge is this is going to happen whether you formally endorse it or not. So
It already is happening, Leanne.
that's the thing. So I think
it is
it's to
happening.
everybody's advantage to say, okay, this is a mechanism. This may not be your official communications,
Right.
but it is an important part of what you have to think about. And it's to your advantage to set up that relationship early, get those mechanisms in place. So when I need to get content out to my community, I think of you as a potential, person who can take that content and fan it out to, hundreds or potentially thousands of other members of my community.
Yeah, this is like creating a memorandum of understanding. This is like alliance building.
Yeah.
And I think that also it's important to also consider this as not just a really, we don't want to just be using people. This is also respecting someone for their power and for their volunteerism and for their sense of civic duty, because I think that really and for the value that they bring, and not just, again, I want to be clear about not wanting to use them, but to really treat them as an equal partner and as a stakeholder, because again, that neighborhood admin, and I like to refer to them specifically as a neighborhood admin, because they are really representing the neighborhood, has something that the administration is unable to offer, which is the power of potentially the communication aspect.
I'm just curious, and if you don't know, that's fine too, but I'm just curious, is there a specific page that you think has done really well when it comes to disasters? I mean, maybe that's a hard one to answer, but I'm just curious, is there one that you would consider a best practice? I mean, maybe if it isn't even disasters, but perhaps just...
Well, yeah, I mean, right now, one that comes totally to mind is in Washington, Illinois. And it's not something that I helped to curate. It was years ago in Washington, Illinois. This group sprung up because of I don't know what F number it was, tornado. It was a strong tornado. I can't quote it exactly. I wouldn't want to misquote it, but it was a very strong tornado in Washington, Illinois, I believe. And the group, this was a number of years ago, maybe like 5. Again, I don't mean to misquote. Yeah. And the group created as a recovery tool, and it began to rally because of that, and now has become a symbol of governance and a community space that has continued to create a system of civic duty. Now, I don't believe that that's a possibility all the time now. And that's because Facebook has changed incredibly by today's standards, because that was Facebook 5 years ago.
Yeah.
At this point, I want to make sure that we're highlighting the need for emergency managers to recognize the value of incorporating into groups that already exist, because Facebook is different today than it was 5 years ago. And that's why I think it's really important to respect the people that have already created groups that exist 10 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
However, another group that I've been watching is called Living in Abaco, Bahamas. We know that Hurricane Dorian, in the past weeks, and I was able to join a group that started with 15,000 people when Hurricane Dorian was hitting a few weeks ago, and there was 15,000 people in it. And right now, they're in that group. There's 22,000 people in it. And I was not able to communicate with that neighborhood admin. Obviously, they've been flooded with requests, flooded with all sorts of demands. They chose to let thousands and thousands of looky-loos into the group. And And, you know, most of them are probably people trying to help. Most of those people also could be others that are unhelpful people that have joined the group. But there's a lot of things that happen in a locally based Facebook group, rescues, offers of assistance. And that group started in February 2009. That social channel could not be replicated. It was already something that existed and was an asset to the people living on the ground. So what I offer to the emergency management industry is a network that I began during Hurricane Harvey in August 2017 and have continued until this day, which is bringing together the admins of locally based Facebook groups, and at this time have about 500 community influencers that spans from Alaska to Key West, and I'm hoping to be able to continue to grow that, because I believe that these people are an incredible asset to national and international organizations.
I agree. And I'm going to, in the description of the video, we'll put your contact information, whatever you want me to put there so people can get in touch. And if they are an admin, or if they're interested in getting more information about, you know, how to integrate this into the communications plan, that would be great, because I do think what you're doing is fantastic. I know you're volunteering to do this yourself. Most of these admins are volunteers,
right?
But there's a passion there. They totally think that this is a great tool, and it is. And I think that more and more communities have to look at these types of groups to get their message out, to help get critical information to people quickly. There's a credibility piece there already. They go there automatically, you know, so, and we know how quickly rumors and bad information can get out there. So if you're a trusted source, people will go to you. And I think it's you know, important that we take these things seriously and plan for it.